Hey everybody, so I'm back today. There was a lot of feedback about how much it's helped you, some of the exercises that I was able to share. I do a lot of yoga and I've had a lot of musculoskeletal issues, and some of you say that you're at risk for falls, you have foggy brain, and then there's some numbness and tingling issues. These are all not directly related to lupus, but it's part of lupus. Because of the inflammatory cytokines and inflammation that tends to affect our myelin sheaths. Those are the linings of our nerve fibers. Sometimes, I know you guys know, there was a little bit of a slurring of the speech. I couldn't think about the next word. Those are all central nervous system down the pathway. And then a lot of the motor deficits that occur with lupus, it's part of the deal. And so, just falling a lot, as I mentioned in the prior video about like how the bigger joints are involved. It's kind of nice to keep that mobile, but there is a fine balance between exercising too much to not exercising enough. I used to be on the latter or the exercising too much spectrum, and then I would get so catabolic, meaning I would cause more inflammation, so I'd be in bed for a couple of days after doing exercising a long time. So that's not good. So I've been kind of listening to you, and wanted to kind of share some of the exercises to kind of help you loosen up the SI joint or the low back as well as the hips. So let's just follow through. I want you to be on your hands and knees if you can. Some of you, when I was inflamed, I couldn't even be on my knees, or I couldn't put any pressure on any joints. So if you're at that point, just keep watching. I'll show you some things you can do on your back. But for those of you who can, just putting some weight onto your hands like this, it sort of gets all the receptors in the shoulder joint, like your rotator cuff muscles, to kind of fire, to stabilize. That's always a good thing, because the less we move, the more inflamed we are. We get atrophied in our muscles, meaning they shrink in size. And as we grow older, as the muscles shrink, we don't have enough proprioception and balance for that reason. So the idea is to keep our muscles nice and firm so that we can stay active, right? Because when the flare goes away, I promise it does get better. So you need to be ready for that. So I'm just going back and forth like this. And when I do that, keeping a steady pressure onto my palms, all 5 fingers, it sort of kind of gets a lot of the pressure into my joints, just taxing it just enough to where I can stretch my forearms and putting a load on it to stabilize my shoulder girdle. So I want you to press really firmly down toward the floor and then down. You see how my shoulder blades are pushing up, that gap. I'm not letting my shoulder blades protrude out away from my rib cage back here, but I'm pushing, pushing, pushing to kind of engage my shoulder muscles. Very easy. It shouldn't be too hard. And then from there, keeping your palms right below your shoulders, knees right below your knees, you're going to go ahead and do cat and camel. Gaze up and really sink your belly toward the mat. And then exhale, lead with the pelvis and tuck as you press firmly through the palms of your hands. Inhale up and exhale down. And inhale up and exhale down. That really does a number to release the low back joints, the spinal column, frees up a lot of the nerve pathways. That's going to help a lot to kind of decrease the inflammation in those joints. Just any movement is helpful at this point. So then from there, I want you to kind of go into child's pose with your forehead down like this, and then sink deep into your pelvic structure here to stretch your low back. And extend your arms up overhead and really stretch, stretch, stretch so that you can feel a nice stretch into your shoulders. And then go back up. And again, this is just moving back and forth. And move up and back. And move forward and back. Repeat that a couple of times, and throughout the day, if you do that, that would be good. Try not to put too much weight onto your wrists because I know that that's the part where it gets really, really tender at times, right? For those of you who can't be on your wrists, because I've had some times in my flares where I couldn't be on my joints, so it's best to be on your back. And then bring both knees up to your chest and just hug your knees in. You guys might not have enough mobility in your hips right now to pull it all the way in. If that's the case, keep it wherever you are. You might even have to hold behind your knees because sometimes the knees get really swollen, and then toes up like that and just pull, pull, pull. And that's going to provide a lot of stretch in your low back as well as the hip. And then release. And again, just gentle motion like that is all we need to kind of move the toxins out of our hips, because that's where a lot of the toxins, inflammatory cytokines accumulate, and that's what we want to kind of flush out. As I mentioned, everything towards our heart, right? So from there, you want to go ahead and bring your right ankle on top of the left knee, and then see if you can thread your arms through your legs and then pull this up. And that's going to really get this right hip really stretching deeply. Do what you can. You want to pull the tailbone away from the crown of the head. So you're really stretching your spine down onto the floor. It's a gentle stretch and hold. Take a deep breath in and exhale for about 15 seconds. And then you're going to do the exact opposite. Move slowly and then switch sides. So left ankle on top of my right knee, and then I'm going to bring my right leg up toward me. And usually one side is a little bit more tight than the other side. For me, it's the left hip. So this is really tight for me, and this is an area that really does bother me. I've taken my birthday trips to San Francisco twice in the last 2 consecutive years, and I kid you not, on the streets of San Francisco, I would just, embarrassing, but I would just kind of fall for no reason at all. And just like my legs would give out. And so it was just kind of funny because I'm totally good, but like there's a point where, do I blame that on lupus or what? But I do know that lupus has caused a lot more instability into my joints. And I think I read somewhere in the feed that some of you complain about just falling and being like not stable on your 2 feet. So that can be a part of it, and just be a good sport and laugh it off sometimes, because it was humiliating as I went flying forward down onto my hands, and then I just slipped on my back. It was, it wasn't so funny at the time, but in retrospect, you do get humbled by that. So that's it for the nerve pain, and that's how you move a lot of the big muscles. Give me some feedback like you did last time so that I can consistently share with you some of the things that I know. I do have a yoga school here at my center because yoga has kept my body so agile, and I am as fit as I am today because I chose to move, right? So there is a fine balance where you can attain to where you're not pushing too hard, but just enough to where you can gain some sense of strength and stability, because that's also important. I also have osteopenia because of prolonged prednisone use, so I have all the motivation in the world to make sure that I exert some pressure around my joints by using these resistive exercises, like doing some yoga exercises and Pilates, of course, to make sure I don't get osteoporotic later on in life, because right now whatever I do is going to help my future. And just keep in mind too, most of you who are in the child rearing age, that's when the hormones are like really active, and that's when the flares tend to be a little bit more aggressive. But research has it that there is a direct link to lupus and progesterone, female sex hormones, to kind of modulate so that after menopause, the flares do calm down. So those in your 20s and 30s, which I've had lupus in my 20s and 30s, those were some scary times. They kind of taper off as you grow older. So give me some comments about this, and then I can add some exercises. So if you give me some feeds about like what joints you want me to work on, I'll be more than happy to share some of the techniques that I share here treating my patients as a physical therapist. So I'll see you next time.